It's always in the news. Cybercriminals attacking great organizations, wreaking havoc on the trust of their brand.
We socialize cybersecurity for you to raise awareness.
Interviewing leaders who built and protect great brands.
We help talented people enter into this incredible field, and we share our research and blockbuster true cybercrime stories.
This is Cybercrime Junkies. And now the show. Hey, well, welcome everybody to Cybercrime Junkies. I am your host, David Morrow, and in the studio today, we are very fortunate to have Deidre Diamond, the founder and CEO of CyberSN, with us. And she's got a storied history, very experienced in the cybersecurity industry leadership, held many positions. We're going to hear about that career arc, and then we're going to touch on ways to break into cybersecurity, ways to advance your career, new approaches, and their CyberSN platform. So, Deidre, welcome to the studio. We appreciate you being here.
Ditto. Thanks for having me.
That's great. So, tell us about your current role, and then let's back up a little bit and hear about your experience.
Yeah, well, I'm just about 9 years in this September to founding CyberSN, and that was born of really loving my first half of my career, which was tech staffing, and then the second half of my career, which was security software. And putting the two together is really what CyberSN was born of, and that is disrupting the space of recruiting, and that job searching and matching is a broken system. And so I was really compelled to help my security friends that I met when I went to build Rapid7, which was my first entry into cyber. I loved that.
Rapid7's a very well-respected service group. Phenomenal offerings. We come across them all the time. So, and you were, what role did you have with them?
I was the first vice president of sales, so
wow.
to 50 million. So before the marketing world even came, right? So the founders of Rapid7, I worked for them for 21 years across 3 different companies in a sales capacity, first recruiting and then software sales. And I'm a criminal justice sociology major by trade, almost became a attorney. So really fell in love with the criminals with the cyberspace. And so when it was time for me to do my own thing, the founders were retiring and not starting more companies. Putting the two together really meant something to me. I
absolutely
really enjoy both businesses a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's always an interesting story whenever somebody is passionate in cybersecurity. There's usually a calling or a bigger mission, right? That's one of the things that always intrigues me. It's it's about serving others. It's about protecting others. It's a curiosity or a passion about about criminal justice, about justice in general.
I find myself often referencing this community as social servants.
Right.
It's very true that one must want to protect to take this, these jobs on.
Yeah. So let me unpack that, if you will. So CyberSN is, and we'll have links to CyberSN in the show notes. So we employ everybody to please go check it out. It's a really unique way of searching for a job in cybersecurity. Can you kind of walk us through for both the visual listeners and the audio only audience?
Absolutely. Well, there isn't a soul that I've met that doesn't think that our current job searching system isn't broken and hazardous to our health. Really, we know we've got a shortage, and yet people can't find jobs. Even people experience, economy, for the first time, we're seeing cyber professionals be laid off at a significant enough level to where it's concerning to how long they're on the job market. And so this is a problem that's been known. It's been known so long that I was in the business before the digital revolution. I'm in my 50s. And so I did this business on paper. So when I first founded CyberSN, I couldn't make matches that were worth a cost of sale to where I can employ people.
Right.
And so I had to figure out the match problem. And the match problem is that one, everybody's searching in all different places. I mean, there's how many job boards and social networks that jobs are being posted now. So there's too many places to go to. And number two, and more importantly, is that there is no common language to job responsibilities and to job descriptions, and are the result of that. And so because of that, everybody's speaking a different language. And that means professionals and employers are spending a lot of time to find out that it's not the right fit. And that
Right.
time is bigger than I've ever seen it. When in my day, we were 5 days. Now you're 5
Right.
months,
Hmm.
and that's a terrible thing. That means that people stay employed while they're job searching for a long time. That means employers don't fill roles in any adequate time frame. I mean, it means lots of bad things for society. And so, while it hit me both in my pocket economically, it also socially said to me, oh my gosh, I left the staffing business for 10 years and built software companies and came back and thought, this is terrible. We have to fix this. So our platform, at first, of course, it was an application internally. It's how we developed the organization. And then we turned it into an international platform 3 years ago for building job descriptions and profiles, and we do the matching. So we're all about where talent meets the match. We built the common language for cybersecurity jobs. So we've built that years ago. It's now 45 job functions. When we started, it was 18. So, I'm a operational person. And so, you don't have to, be technical or know every piece of a job, but somebody better know it for the job description. And so what I asked my security leader and his team when they built this content years and years ago is, I want, if there's a job title and a functional role, I want to ask the employer or the professional, are you doing this, or does this person need to do this, based on every task or project that's possible? And so, think of it as a checklist of, and everything that's checked is the job. And then it's, how much time are they spending in that, with that functional role, is super necessary. So we've taken you got to have technical recruiters or cyber recruiters, or, all the cutting and pasting of job descriptions that everybody's doing that aren't helping everybody. And we've made it to where we're matching good content to good content versus garbage content to garbage content. And it works. And it's all.
Yeah, that's excellent. And what does your platform have currently? Like roughly around 170,000 current
Yeah,
openings or candidates?
it's over 190,000.
Hmm.
Now, those are not all in our taxonomy. In fact, press before the press hits, I am going to offer in the next, I think this press release goes out in 6 weeks, we're probably 6 weeks from today, free job postings, because at the end of the day, there's 190,000 plus minimally out there that are not in the taxonomy, never mind all that are. And that's not helping anybody. And they're not going to all just do it because I tell them. I think they'll all do it if it's free. And here it is, a place that cyber professionals are looking and searching. And by the way, where SEO doesn't matter. So let me give you to this point.
Yeah, walk us through what
Yeah.
do you mean by that? What do you mean by SEO
So
doesn't matter?
there's 190,000 jobs on our website not in the taxonomy. I review the data from Splunk on a regular basis.
Hmm.
I'm looking at the data recently and I see security analysts. Why are there 10,000 more jobs for security analysts in the last 30 days?
Hmm.
And what was so interesting is that we found that people were putting slash compliance. Basically, people were trying to work SEO, and weird that it all sort of happened in 1 month. So we're still really looking into this, but it's very obvious that the titles were different, these newer jobs, and people were trying to play the SEO game. I mean, I saw
So
it when
they were putting in the
keywords.
names of things so that when people are searching for it, it's that, but the actual role is something different.
because security analysts, there's more security analysts than there are any, right? And so they want it to come up. So I
Oh,
remember when I first started the company calling, the job boards going, how come I'm not getting ad response? And them saying to me, you don't have, keywords, in your job description. I'm like, cyber professionals are passive. They're not going to read through 15 times each keyword, which is what I was told to do. That's why we've got this, these bodies of content that's just wasted words, never mind that people really don't take the time to figure out what they need and project-based work
oh
at it.
yeah,
So, there's just so many pieces to this. One of the newest things that I'm loving beyond the jobs data that I now have, that we've had it in the open architecture now 7, 8 months. So I'll be able to even do more as we go. But, is also watching, what roles are staying steady in this economic climate. There's no surprise. Got any guesses? May seem obvious, but maybe not sometimes.
DevOps, things like that, maybe.
Yeah, so the compliance oriented roles are staying steady. There's a tiny dip, but nothing like the spikes that you see in other roles that aren't compliance based. So for instance, IAM or
Right.
analysts, where there's tons of analysts, so you could, not tons, but in one company there's more analysts than anybody else, so you can lose a few, so to speak. And it's just interesting stuff. The system is super broken because job descriptions became almost free. My day, before digital era, we paid $5,000
Mm,
for the Sunday paper, and it only went to the people in that location. You got like this much space.
right.
So you had to really have job that you wanted to fill. And you know how many people post jobs right now and they're not even open? I mean, it was reported not long ago, a couple weeks ago, Amazon had like 20,000. These big companies having all these jobs posted that aren't even open, or just want to, you know,
Are they just trying to, like, have a bench of, like, people waiting so that way if there's attrition, they can just, roll them through?
It's possible. I think most of them, sometimes they don't even remember they're up there. Think about staff changes. They're a couple $100 just
Mhm.
finding that card. This is auto renew, right? I mean,
Right.
there's that. There's not taking them down when they're filled.
Yep.
Uh, and then there's, I think people like to see what comes, like you're saying, maybe what can we get for this with this job description? All of it, there's no excuse. It doesn't
Mhm.
work. It doesn't make it any better. There's no such thing as pipeline when you're talking about a resume goes stale in months, never mind a year, 2 years.
Right.
That person's not doing those same things. They're not making the same money. They're not interested in the same things. It's why databases are worthless, so to speak, in the staffing business, and or have to be kept up to date to even have value, which means people calling people. So, we can't, that's not scalable. It's part of the problem, which is why in the platform, at CyberSN, it's all about your own dashboard and, keep what you're doing up to date, super easy user experience. And then, you never have to search, is where I want to go. Like, I'm not at scale yet, but I'm close enough to where I can give the state of Washington 5 candidates, and they hire 2 deputy CISOs from 5 of jobs open over a year, stuff like that.
Oh, okay, very good. Yeah,
So, and
okay.
that's without touching, very little touch. So
Right.
so,
So
the call
so
to
so
arms.
your platform for those that are searching for, jobs in cybersecurity, or they wanna make a transition, or they're nervous about, y their current role, or they've recently been laid off. They can go to CyberSN, fill out their information based on their resume, and they don't have to worry about the keywords per se.
Right,
You guys kind of, like,
yeah,
do it based on, like, the job postings you guys have are based on the actual tasks that are done in the role.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And, so if you have
That's
experience.
different. So that's a good new approach to entering cybersecurity, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and now we need the employers to, comply, and so we're gonna make it really easy for them, make it free. Professionals is it's all a call to arms, in my opinion. It's all there. It just needs to be at scale now, right? And that's going to
Right.
require everybody to help support. And so I'm doing my thing by making free and click this link and you're in the builder. There's no question that if you have experience, you make a profile and we can help match to those jobs. And at the same time, if you don't have experience, we have a career center that is extremely powerful with role, career mapping, so all the different types of roles, how to think about what your day in life would be. It's really about choose that role. And then we have a lot of content to help those folks, to include a lot that I do in the space of new to cyber that's outside of CyberSN, secure diversity and other groups. Really right now the platform is experience, which is just as long as you've got a couple of months, you're working
Hmm.
space, or you've done an internship or something. And soon we'll have something for no experience, because that's a different mapping system. It's
Sure,
not.
because and there could be entry level roles that could still be beneficial to an ultimate cybersecurity career. It could be help desk, it could be something else, it could be a whole host of things, right?
That's right. And, I launched a service a year ago called Retention as a Service because, my friends are cyber leaders. I've been in this space since 2007. And it breaks my heart to see the challenges as somebody that comes from a high retention story that creates high retention cultures. I thought, you know what, let's help. And so when I've been out there, we've been really having great success with mapping cross-functional training. And so even within cyber GRC, anything cyber, and
Mhm.
certainly thinking IT and finance and what have you. And so I really want to encourage that thought process. I don't have that sort of mapped out in my career center yet for everybody. I was talking with some folks in the education institute world and committed to them recently that I would, because it is powerful to see the connection, like, oh, well, I'm interested in cyber, but what role and how would I do that?
Right,
How do I go from IT into what role and not take a salary cut? Because that's the other thing. Like,
right.
us- there's specific ways to even not take a salary cut and get into cyber. It requires, a thought process that I'd like to digitally provide the mapping for. So we
Yeah,
will see.
that's fantastic. Is there any insight into, like, certification
Yeah,
routes?
exactly, exactly.
Certification paths, because that
And
is a really common question. There's people that wanna get into it, they're younger, they just wanna break into it, or they wanna transition from a non-technical space, and they have aptitude, they have the vision and the drive, and they wanna do it, so they're asking about the path, or they're, in a technical path, and they wanna launch over to be an analyst or a threat hunter or a pen tester, and they just want to know which one, because there's so many different routes to take. There's so
yeah,
many,
I know.
you know.
I know. I have the mapping from everything from like being an analyst all the way to a CSO
Okay.
in every job card in the career center. If you click into it, it'll have even salary data. And that's CyberSN salary data, which means, placements that we're making. Because while we have the platform, we have clients that still want us to do full service, that
Mhm.
don't have the time or the resources, one or the other. And certainly it's how we started, is full service. So lots of data there, and there is certifications. They're not mapped to the role, but what I can offer people is that conversation. I have documentation. I don't have it in the career center yet. Is to just email and I can send that out. There's a lot of work that needs to be done around the financial piece of picking, because
Mhm.
when people are moving already in the workforce, that's the challenge. So I would encourage people to look at the money that's in every one of those job cards. It's real data and it's 2 years experience or more. It doesn't matter. Like Equal Pay Act changed the game. Equal Pay Act and the shortage changed the game, where it used to be back in the day, somebody with 10 years experience could never make the same as somebody with 2 years experience. Well, those days are gone. If you can do the same job, you're getting paid the same. I mean,
Right.
it's really the case, or 5 years and 10 years, or 5 years and 15 years. Uh, so,
How
um,
about the non-technical folks? How
yeah,
about the people that want to focus on GRC or sales, marketing, consulting?
yeah,
Has CyberSN developed anything for the sales marketing
yes,
people that are passionate about driving security solutions for providers like
yeah.
through MSSPs or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm came up the sales route, so certainly have tons of clients that pushed us into the sales right away in the beginning, and then that led into marketing and customer success, right? So
Yep.
we service a lot of security software companies too, so
Oh,
it fits nice. Yeah, it's probably a good 25-30% of our business is that, especially with what I did at Rapid7 and have a lot of consulting in the early days of starting CyberSN to help, and then that just led into being the staffing solution. But the career center, all of it concludes sales and marketing as well. And to people that are technical, even that have the desire to, maybe be less on the keyboard and more speaking to people, because we're all on the keyboard. You're never going to get away from it. But
right.
like there is more or less of one or the other. Those are great roles for technical people too.
Absolutely.
In fact, if I did it all over again, I would have spent the time there, right? Lucky that I have hooked up with some great technologists because I couldn't do it without them, and they can't do it without great salespeople. And here we are. But if you could be one, that would be I would have wanted to just have a little bit more, and I gave that up long ago and just conceded to being a good question asker
Yep.
in building technology.
Have we seen the bottom? Have we reached the bottom of the tech layoffs industry wide, or is it still something that tends to be going?
Um,
What's
so
your? I'm not gonna
it's
hold
still
you to it. I'm just curious what you're seeing in the industry.
Yeah. The jobs data shows that we have had a significant drop. It started to pick up in the beginning. So it dropped, right? October. We really saw
Mhm.
like Q4. And in the beginning of the year, February, it started to pick up a little, but then it dropped,
Mhm.
and I felt we all feel that. In fact, I started feeling this last June. I knew last June this was all coming. Jobs data is where you see it first.
Yep.
But now it's pretty much the same. And really, those that are out there in need of really getting things done, but also having to cut budgets, have had a lot of success in turning folks into contractors. In fact, that's what I told a lot of my not a lot, all my clients. Don't let people go. Just give me a call. We've got a whole program. We can switch it. You can switch them back. I don't care. But we're not letting, don't let people go. And so I think that helped a lot in our client base. I know it did. And then, of course, a lot of contract hiring is happening now comparative to before the economic shift. But
Mhm.
if we're going to see more, it's very possible. I mean, we're all waiting to see sort of what happens in some bigger picture items of that
Sure.
are out there. But right now, it's uncertain, and yet people have to get work done. So we're starting to feel like people are moving more. It's a little early to tell until some bigger global stuff gets, more settled.
Sure. I mean, I find it concerning when industries as a whole start cutting security staff. It's like
It's annoying.
you're building a brand, an organization's brand, and yet you're cutting the security that can protect that brand. It is a really risky move, in my opinion. It's there are nice to haves, but when there's always developments in technologies that are nice to haves, that for convenience or whatever. But security's not one of those. Security is one of those that go to the core heart of an organization's brand. And so I find it discerning that we were witnessing so many layoffs in that space.
Yeah, it's the security space has always bothered me in terms of its ability to have the seriousness that it needs.
Hmm.
It's not us as a community, it's a financial barrier that we have in that to really perform security versus perform compliance are such drastic dollars difference that it's really easy for capitalism to say, let's just worry about compliance.
Hmm.
I've been dealing with that since the day I opened doors. I've never seen anything like it. In fact,
So they're
IT.
just trying to do the base level, like,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they're like, well, let's just not get penalized by auditors at a minimum, right?
yeah, yes. I mean, that's what I've seen since the day I started. Beyond the matching, that was the second most biggest punch in the face as a
Yeah, because
founder.
that's brutal, right? Because compliance and security are really two different things. Like,
And that's why we have turnover, because think about it,
right,
if you're chief information security officer, you're being sold you can do what you need to do from a security perspective, but really you're given a compliance budget. So how? And the number one way I knew was I couldn't believe like nobody could use a staffing agency. Like
right.
like, what? Software and IT is using that every day. There's more recruiters doing that than anything.
Yeah.
And in cyber, we fight for staffing budget for an outside resource. It still
Yeah,
happens.
that's a challenge as well.
It's mind blowing. So that's why I'm saying it's no surprise to me the job data is showing compliance roles staying steady, which, and non compliance roles not, and, laying off of security professionals while we haven't seen it before. Again, not surprising when we're working in a capitalism system.
Mhm. Everybody, just wanted to mention Cybercrime Junkies Prime. We now have a subscription available through our podcast, and it offers exclusive content, bonus episodes, and even pre-releases of all of our standard shows.
We keep it simple. It's just the cost of one cup of coffee one time a month, and you can cancel anytime.
You can subscribe by scanning the QR code next to me in the video or by clicking the link in the show notes. If you select not to subscribe to our Prime membership, please at least consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. It's at Cybercrime Junkies Podcast on YouTube, and it's absolutely free. It allows us to bring great guests on the show. Thank you for your support, and now let's get back to it.
And we really want compliance. Or
You've
we
done, yeah. You let me switch gears just slightly. You've done a lot of work with diversity and with females entering cybersecurity. I'd like to touch on that a little. The cybersecurity industry, overwhelmingly, like many others, but especially cybersecurity, are predominantly male
Mm,
dominated, right? And there's a lot of leaders coming up. I mean, look at all of them, like Jen Easterly. You can go on and on that are phenomenal and female. And how are what advice can we give to females that want to break into cybersecurity, develop in cybersecurity? Um, Walk me through what you're seeing in the industry, and let's see if we can provide some insight.
absolutely. So this journey started for me when I realized what a minority I was. I was shocked. It wasn't my story to be thinking about being a woman. Lucky me. It represents why I'm the under 1%, which is founding CEO who also invested her own millions of dollars made in the tech industry to build an organization. There's less than 1%. There's
Mhm.
1% female, or excuse me, women CEOs, and so that are founders. And so, once I realized that I was in my early 40s, it was like a smack in the face. I got to help. And again, the guys I work for, our cultures were 50-50. Mine still
Mhm.
are. Sometimes it goes 60-40, whatever, but it's in that realm. So I thought I got to get involved. And so my involvement has changed over the years. First started out with getting rid of the concept of booth babes and staffing conferences with students when I founded Secure Diversity. And then it was, okay, we solved that. And then let's Day of Security conference has been 5 years running, which is we need a free conference where women can be safe and speak on the stage, give them the stage, no pay for play. And then that advanced to all underrepresented genders and still happening. In fact, there's one May 18th and 19th, usually over 1,100 registrants, and great sponsors hiring people new to cyber as well as experience.
Excellent.
And yeah, and then that advanced to okay, I'm doing all this, but women aren't advancing enough. There's still not enough in the C-suite. And so that's when I developed the SANS executive cohorts for secure diversity so that we can fund putting women into those seats. So that's security, cloud, SOC, as well as GRC executive cohorts. And so now we're at this place, and just coming out of RSA, it was really nice to hear some of the conversation, which is, we've gone from we have allies like you, David, and others. We have you all as allies. Now we need you to be conspirators is the word,
Hmm.
meaning like do something about it. So
Right.
when I look at all of this, at the end of the day, we're making progress. There's some great not-for-profits beyond secure diversity. There's WESIS, and Cyber Jitsu, and Cyversity that are helping. But really, at the end of the day, we need the men that are running everything to help us and to
Right.
do more, because there still is sort of the top seats and the middle seats, and the development is needs more nurturing and more
Right.
attention and
Yeah,
understanding.
I would, from a male perspective, I would completely agree. And to me, it doesn't make any sense because cybersecurity is something, especially that is predominantly done behind a keyboard or at a, it's about the mind. It's about
Mhm.
applying the skills that you've learned. You can do that. It doesn't matter if you have a young baby, if you have, like, when you think about the historic reasons for some of that, it's biological, right? It's like, okay, well, somebody's going to be pregnant, they can't do the physical things during a period of time, perhaps, right? Or they're caring for a young baby, or whatever that might be. That doesn't even apply to cybersecurity. Like, there's no reason for it, right? Like, so to me, I would think that it would, maybe it's just the approach that's going on at the younger ages, right? To me, I think that STEM education and bringing cybersecurity into the high schools, letting them understand it, because when I talk to some of these schools, these K-12 environments, they still think of cybersecurity as the hacker with the hoodie, and they don't understand the industry at all, right?
Yeah,
And it's really media formed.
yeah,
And to me, like, there's so many great jobs that could be remote only jobs that people can do and make a great impact in cybersecurity. And there needs to not be any glass ceiling. There needs to actually have all of those developments. So what can we do? Like,
yeah.
somebody that wants to break into cybersecurity, they're coming up, they're getting an education, or they're maybe not formal, or regardless of whether it's formal college path or it's experience with boot camps and then certifications. What are some of the things that you guide, or that you would advise a young female to kind of learn, or resources to point to?
Yeah, I will, and I'll give you some links so that we can publish these.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have commercial solutions, I have government solutions, I have a lot of content that I've prepared, and this and for diverse professionals as well as anybody.
Hmm.
We all the things you mentioned are problems that we have today, without a doubt. So we need to tackle all of them. At the end of the day, there's lots of things people have to do. There isn't one thing they're going to do. It's that many things that are on these
Right.
slides here,
Absolutely.
and all these different things they need to do, to include, like, beyond how to apply to jobs and how to think about that whole world and how to do it. There's also the join the Slack channels, join the free events, do some something in GitHub, any open source projects you can get yourself on, volunteer. Like, it's still the case that the new to cyber and the C suite find their jobs by referrals at scale. Like, that's still the
Yeah.
game, because at the end of the day, those two places have the worst matching issues. Like, so many different types of profiles for the C suite, so many different profiles for new to cyber, job matching. I mean, it's a mess. So again, I've solved it for the experience, but I don't have it at scale. And so it's still that's the number one way. So you got to get out into the community. You got to go to these events. The cool thing about the cyber community is that, you can see the social service stuff in play, in that most of these conferences, if not all of them now, really pay attention and have things for new to cyber beyond
They
education.
really do. Yeah, I
Yes,
mean, even B-sides, all of
yes,
them, like
I love
all of
them.
the local B-sides and
Yes.
all of the, I mean, almost every conference has a section for all of that.
That's right. So you gotta join them, and a lot of them are digital, and so you can do many of them, and most B-sides is typically free. I think
Mhm.
SF charges a little, but they have to. I mean, they've got the whole theater reserved, it's hard. It's hard as
Right.
somebody who puts on a conference to get sponsorship and, all that good stuff, but
And
yes.
there's a B-sides everywhere. Like they're popping up. Like I'm seeing more and more. I saw Cody was talking about one where with B-sides Peoria. Like when would
Yeah,
you ever think Peoria, Illinois would have a B-sides? And they're developing it and
yes.
they're logging in. They have a call for papers now. I mean, that's fantastic.
It is, and it's free. I really admire them.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, and one of my colleagues told me he was going to B-sides Argentina next month.
Yeah.
I was like, "Nice," and there's one
That's
in
great.
Hawaii that I just was
Yeah.
talking to. It's not like, "I need to go to Hawaii more. Let's do their
Yeah,
center."
exactly. That's phenomenal. Hey, what's your opinion on boot camps? We get asked about boot camps a lot. And there's people have some pretty strong opinions about them. Like some of them are really worried that people are getting sucked into spending a lot of money and they're not getting the return on them. Others are like, I found my job through them. I'm really passionate about it. What are you seeing? What's your feedback on it?
I think that's probably the case, is that it's, a little all over the map. I think that boot camps that are training on multiple disciplines at one time have a tougher experience with the job searching process,
Sure.
because look, hiring managers don't have a lot of time. They don't have big, robust succession planning programs. So if they're going to hire new to cyber, they really need to know that that person wants that job. That's the discipline they want to do. It's not some stopover until they get the job that they really want. And so I think what has happened is that, because of in the early days, there was a lot of sort of showing lots of different disciplines in one training certification. It really needs to be much more specific. And it's also why I made this career center free. I don't even need your email, is that, figure out where you want to be, because hiring managers won't hire you if you don't come in being like, this is what and be able to like truly have passion that this type of job is the one you want.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and that's oftentimes people are lost and they don't know. They know they want to work in cybersecurity, but they don't know the role. And one thing we always guide people is find out somebody that has a role and ask them. Like, go and look. You can find a day in the life of almost any one of these roles. You can capture. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it through LinkedIn. You can find people that are doing that role,
Yeah.
see what it is that they're talking about, what they're doing, and then you can decide, I don't know if I would like that. Boy, that one has a lot of travel. I don't like to travel. That's not a role for me. This one has this piece that I really like. And then you can kind of know what you'd be happy doing, and then go full force. And when you're applying for a job, be able to demonstrate your ability to do it. Think of like a penetration tester, right? Do you have a home lab? Yeah, I may not have worked for 20 years as a penetration tester, but I have a home lab. I've demonstrated this, and this. I've done hack the box. I've done, all of these things that demonstrate that you have the skills to be able to have the interview and to be able to make your own business case about hiring yourself.
That's right. That's right. And we put it in real layman's terms, just like our jobs. So if, everybody does their research, like you said, listen to some videos, it'll be much more successful. And that's my recommendation to the boot camps, is to, really understand what the employers need. I'm always happy to have that conversation. I take it all the time. The big thing that sort of hit security professionals recently is, let's take application security, for example. So first time ever being laid off and being on the job market and recognizing that they're not coming out of these sassy environments, right? And
All right.
everybody wants sassy, environment background. So the key, and we know this in the education system, which is I think why the boot camps exist, is being tied to the employer's needs
Right.
is really key. And, based on outsourcing and insourcing and products, that's a constant conversation. Got to stay in tune,
Right.
which is also why the data I have is so important because I can see, what the evolution of these roles are. And so I encourage education institutes to keep in touch with me until I can get this data in a way that's, maybe let's say Snowflake. They've been telling me for
Right.
years, and I want to do it too. So yeah, it's valuable enough that, or excuse me, it's changing enough that they have to stay in tune because
Right.
it's moving every 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. So all things being equal, right? Why does a company pick person X?
Mm,
Like what are some of the things that somebody that's searching for a job or looking
mhm.
to make a change
Yeah.
do to stand out?
Oh my gosh, it's all, what I call emotional intelligence, EQ. I'm out talking about it all the time. I talked about it at RSA for Google and Accenture, in one of their programs. Look, we all want to work around people that are interesting and interested, and just showing up to an interview interesting and interested makes a big difference. And so, even when we're passive, or even if we're not sure we're interested in the role, like that's the number one thing. Who doesn't want to work around somebody that's, gonna really come with that sort of presence? And that then, after that, it's really the skill set of EQ, things like, win-win communication, right? Or making and managing agreements, positive attitude, being on time, running a calendar.
It seems so simple, and yet there's so many people that struggle with it.
All the time. and
Right.
and now we're on video. How do we communicate on video? How do we engage and create a relationship? I mean, at the end of the day, even though again people are behind keyboards, gone are the day that we're solely behind keyboards. In fact, I
Right.
started in the business in 1994, and one of our job questions was, does this person have to meet anybody? That was IT jobs, software jobs, because most of the time it was no. And if it was a yes, we better pay attention because it's going to be hard to fill.
That's
Like,
exactly right, right?
those
Like
things are
historically,
gone.
right?
Yes,
Historically speaking, oh, this person has the technical skills. It's okay. They're going to be back in the server room anyway,
yes,
so it's okay.
yes.
Right.
Now you're interacting, teams rely on each other internally, they rely on
Yeah.
it from company to company partners. It's all about how people work together, how they communicate, how
Well, I
well.
think that's been part of the problem, hasn't it? Like when you just have people that don't hone the soft skill sets, then they're not effective in making the internal business case for funding for their department.
Sure,
Right? And so you see business decision makers that aren't technical looking at the technical piece because they could be doing tons of things that have a business impact, but they're not explaining it. And if they're not explaining it, then the decision makers are like, then they're viewing that department as just a cost center, right? It's a liability rather than an asset, when really it's an asset, right? And so, how do we help them articulate those internal business cases so that they can see that protects jobs and also protects the overall organization's brand?
yeah, I think that we've really done a disservice to ourselves in thinking about soft skills are a plus, or soft skills are soft, like
Right.
poo-poo
Or
them
or
if you
they're optional. They're really not optional.
optional. Yeah,
Yeah.
but let's not mistake that I'm using the word skills, meaning there's
Right.
training. Even
Absolutely.
I think most people think I have a natural outgoing personality, and they're right. And yet those guys that I work for, I walked into incredible training. I didn't at 25 years old be running a $50 million business,
Right.
printing money, if you will, like because we're doing such a great job for our clients that, you know, if without that training, and that was like literally win-win communication. What that's
Right.
that's like key to life. Never
Mhm.
mind business. And so Yeah, I have an EQ skills tree. In fact, those SANS cohorts that I created with them. I'm offering that training in there. It's not the full courses because it's too big, but of course, my corporations have been trained on this, and we continually talk about it. It's in our core values to master the EQ skills tree, and to constantly revisit it because the good news about these skill sets that first, of course, they need training, but they can grow. Like our IQ caps out when our brain fully develops, which is somewhere in our mid 20s or so, most of us. And
Mhm.
so, but this stuff you can grow at any time.
Right.
And so we just need to get the
It's a skill
training out.
that can be taught, and
Hey,
that's really the key.
it is just like the quote hard skills or
Right.
whatever it's tech skills. Like you have to practice your craft. You have to get the training, then you have to practice your craft. Same thing. Like I'm
Mhm.
constantly recrafting my messaging or never thinking I'm done and I do make mistakes and how can I even be better at my communication.
Absolutely.
That's
How about
that's
the importance of, like, storytelling in interviews? Like, being able to demonstrate a scenario that you've handled similarly in nature to one that you believe that the role would face, and being able to, like, explain how, you could handle it because you can tell a story how you've handled similar scenarios in the past.
I think it's critical. It's even one of CyberSN's core values is storytelling, to be able to tell one's own story, be able to tell the
That's
cyber
why I mentioned it.
yeah, to be
Yeah,
able to tell CyberSN story, to be able to tell your client's story, to
right.
speak in stories is something that humans naturally love. It's a part of our DNA.
Mhm.
Uh, and so we like it, but also it's super informative. Like I was trained on something called past, present, future. And that every time you start a conversation with somebody, you're talking about the past, like how did we get what was the last time we talked or situation, or how did we get here? Where are we at right now? And where do I want to go? Like it was my job and to own that conversation. And that's what I do still today, every day. And so, that's a story, past, present, future. That's the definition of a story. And so
Yeah,
again, training, I'm so lucky to have gotten that training. It's super important. And I think if everybody could just remember past, present, future, and win-win, like make the conversation a win. Like it's not a win just to say no and sit there.
right,
It's a win to say, I don't have that experience. I have this experience. It's similar.
right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, because there's so many analogous skills, like transferable skills that have you done X? Well, I might not have done X, but I've done this.
that's right.
And it's very, very similar. And it shows that if you were in the environment where you were faced with that, you could have done X.
That's
And
right.
you're still able to demonstrate it.
That's right.
That's kind of the whole key. So what are we seeing in terms of uh, uh, GRC non-technical roles, like the primarily the GRC roles? They've kind of been relatively stable. Are there? I mean, are there are still a ton of cybersecurity jobs out there in all of those fields, whether it's
Yeah.
even for penetration testing, which would be probably some of the least in terms of volume from all of them. But there's still, I see openings all the time, right? I mean, there's still a lot of hope out there for people that have the desire to serve.
Yeah, for sure. I tell people all the time, don't get discouraged. It's a broken job system. It's not you, it's the job
Mhm.
system. You gotta work at it and you gotta work hard at it. So let me give you some numbers. As of last time I looked at my data a few weeks ago, I've got GRC at 8,244 jobs. I've got DevSecOps at the highest, which was 41,954. Then security analyst highest at 54,000. Application security almost 8,000. IAM almost 9,000. Application security about 8,000. Product security about 6,000. Security engineer almost 24,000. Chief information security officers over 3,000. Now we all know that these could be, jobs that some portion of them are crud. But here's the problem: matching to those with crud in there, with
Right.
I mean, it's just a nightmare, right? So it's there's opportunity. It's a broken system. I'm going to message all those employers. I'm going to give them a link, and
Right.
we're going to make darn sure that they put it into a taxonomy. And by the way, the taxonomy is one reason why the match makes it. The other reason is things that constantly are in the weeds, like, do they have to have a degree? Like,
Right.
do you have to? Like in the platform, it's like, do not click this unless you do not want somebody to respond unless they have a degree or be matched without a degree. Or how about citizenship status? Like, it's so hard for people that need citizenship status. They don't really know, right? How about money? Money is like a big reason why people get to the altar and then they don't make a deal happen. What a
Right.
waste! What a waste!
Like, find that out up front.
If
Just
we
everybody know, like, be as much transparency as possible
Yes,
right from the beginning.
yes, and so that's what these job descriptions do. It's not just the taxonomy and how much time on each functional role, although that's massive and game changing in itself. And when you put these other pieces that you see on those job cards or the profile cards, which you can search profiles under on the website too, it's like I said, 5 deputy CISAs, 2 hired. You know,
Yeah.
it
That's
couldn't be that
fantastic.
the money wasn't there, because the money is all over the place,
Right.
as it should be. There's a difference between somebody working in all these different industries and size of companies and time in seat and compliance
Well,
not.
and money might not be the sole driver. Like, after a certain level, then it's just a matter of, well, what does the day in the life look like? And would you be miserable? Because if you're going to be miserable, you're going to have that job for less than a year or so, you're going to move on anyway. So, and that's not good for the employer as well as the employee.
No, and if you know upfront that the salary is a certain number, but then you can also see, oh, this is a state municipal, like my vacation's gonna be X, my
Right.
retirement's gonna
Exactly.
be X,
You're
my
going to get Groundhog's Day off, like
yes,
that, like
yes.
all those other things,
And
right?
so you can literally, when I visioned this years and years ago, it was like, what happened to self-selection?
Right.
What are we doing with this, all these people over here? I never had recruiters in between. It was like, we called it full desk. Like, you did every
Hmm.
action: new business development, finding candidates, filling jobs, and you could still place way more people than people can place today.
Right.
And it was a paper system. And so if we can fly to the moon, we can do this, as far
Yeah.
as I'm concerned, which is why I built this. And so, at the end of the day, the people that are job searching today, you need to keep a really positive attitude, and you have to work your what off.
Yep.
And you got to cover every angle, and you got to reach out for the resources that I mentioned, and you got to know what job function you're looking for, and then you got to be aggressive. It's so,
Yep.
I tell people this all the time, like, people want to help people. Time is not friendly to anybody.
Right, it's having that sense of urgency. I mean, I think that's I see so many people are like, "Well, I'm fixing to do this in, like, this week," and I'm like, "You're fixing to do something this week?"
Right,
Like, I don't even know what that means. Like, if
right.
you want it done, you do it right now, do it today. Get off the
That's
phone, go. Like,
right.
because there's gonna be 5 or 6 other people doing it today. Like,
That's
you can't delay. Like, there has to be a sense of urgency.
That's right, and that means you follow up with people every day. You don't wait a week,
Yeah,
every day.
right,
Like, I get to the people that help me get to them, if it's social servant work,
right,
you know? Like, I was telling
absolutely,
my own team that today. I have a client that I love that asked me to do something for them, and it took me a week. And I love them. So
right.
don't think you're gonna ask once or twice to your, people that love you. You gotta, or even like you, or wanna maybe hire you, or thinking about hiring you. Help them. Be really in front of them.
Yep.
Follow up regularly and have something interesting to say. That being
Yep, it's that
interested.
storytelling piece, that understanding the day in the life, all of that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great. Well, DJ, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We were going to have links in the show notes to CyberSN. We encourage everybody to check it out. And if you want to share those other resources, we will put those in the show notes as well. Watch for this on YouTube and our audio podcasts. And we thank you so much for the insight and all that you're doing for the community. Great stuff.
Feel the same about you. Thank you for what you're doing. good to be with you.
Thanks so much. We appreciate it. Bye now.
Bye.
Hey, well, that's a wrap. Thank you for listening. Our next episode starts right now.
Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free. And download the podcast episodes available everywhere you get podcasts.
To support our show and get exclusive pre-release episodes and bonus content, please subscribe to Cybercrime Junkies Prime.
Link in the description and show notes. And thanks for being a cybercrime junkie.